Good morning, Amy. How are you?
I'm doing good. So wonderful to have you. Um, it's been 4 years.
That long, my goodness.
It's been
Time
four
has
years.
flown. Mhm.
Yeah. And I remember having you as my guest, um, when 36 Secrets came out. It just came out, and I was just
Yes.
going through the deck myself, and
Yeah.
magically I see this book. It's like, wait a second. How is this possible? I'm going through the decans. This book came out. This is in sync. And that's how I came across Susan Chang. And then seeing that she had previous books, and then
Mhm.
knowing that Susan Chang is a somewhat known person in the tarot community. I don't look for people in the tarot community. I just do my own thing. And then if there's information, I obviously follow through with it. So
Mhm.
I was fascinated with this book. And that's when I met Susan and I introduced myself and whatnot. So I'm going to put the link for everyone if you want to watch that replay of four
Mhm.
years ago. I've aged a little bit, so be nice and
We all have.
it's been a rough well, not rough, but it was, a
Yeah.
good 4 years. It was a solid 4 years. I'll just say that. Uh, but we've learned, and in that time, geez, Susie, you've had three books in that time?
Something like that. So 36 Secrets was right after 36 Secrets, kind of at the same time, Mel and I were working on Tarot Deciphered. So Deciphered came out a couple months after that. And then after that, I did The Living Tarot, which is the book that emerged from my tarot course, The Living Tarot. That was with Llewellyn in 2023. And then finally, Four Stories came out last year or actually, I guess it was this year, the beginning of this year. It's all a blur now.
It's
and
every year.
Yeah, it's every other year, just about. I try to write in the fall, although I'm now going to take a break for a while because I think I need to pour my energies into the Tarot podcast, which began just in the end of May. So it's still quite new.
It's a different kind of conversation now. You're moving from the realm of books, writing,
Mhm.
and now you're putting it out into the vocal realm.
Yes, yes, and more in a more general fashion than we did with Fortune's Wheelhouse, because I think with Fortune's Wheelhouse it was sort of like Mel and I needed to work out the esoterics for ourselves, and we wanted to invite everyone into the conversation if they wanted to join, but it was never meant to be for everyone. There's so much Kabbalah.
Yeah. It'll never end. If ever someone's thinking they're going to get an answer or get to either Kether or Malkuth, you will, but it's going to be just a cycle.
So I wanted to have an opportunity to speak to some of the big questions, the big general questions that everyone has about tarot, and capture some of the magic of coming to tarot for the first time.
Mm. Just
Yeah.
simplifying it. You
I
see?
don't know. I don't know if it's simplifying because the big questions are big and they're never simple. Like fate versus free will. That's something I want to talk a lot about on the podcast, and it's never simple. But I think it's important to have um, a simple frame of mind to ask the question. I
Okay.
guess. Yeah.
I understand that. When
Yeah.
I was watching some snippets of Lon Duquette,
Yes. Lon is hilarious.
oh my God, it's like I don't know where this interview is going to go or whatnot. He
Yeah.
had a birthday just on Friday,
Yes, he did.
and I
Yeah.
was just
Yeah.
someone he put a post of him talking, and I'm
Yeah.
like, this man can just talk about anything from peanut butter to like the higher realms of I don't know what.
I
He,
enjoy watching Lon. No end. There's like a moment where he'll pause and he'll look in the air, and some like metaphor from outer space is just gonna land any minute now.
he has his own magic.
He
He,
does.
he
He
pulls it out
absolutely
of
does. Yeah.
any place. it's too much. But to go back, let's jump right into the four stories. Let's jump
Okay,
right into this book,
let's do that.
The
Yeah.
Elements of the Tarot. Okay.
Yes.
I want to ask before you go to share your thoughts. Do you cover, I don't have the book just yet, so bear with me. I'll
Okay.
get to it. I
Yeah.
have a stack. Everyone's telling me all these books. I'm like, it's okay, I'll get to it. Do you cover the element of spirit?
I do not in
You
this
don't.
book. In this book, so it's really a very, based on the traditional elements. It's an elemental approach to the tarot, and it's fire, water, air, and earth.
Mhm.
So, what I really am trying to do is go back to sort of basics and figure out why we talk about the elements the way we do and how that shows up in the tarot. So why are wands fiery? Why are cups watery? Why are swords airy? And why are pentacles earthy? Because we know that we have those correspondences from the Golden Dawn, but why? And and for me, I use I use those correspondences more than anything. I mean, I use the astrology a lot. I use quite a lot of Kabbalah when I'm doing tarot readings for myself and others, at least in my head. Doesn't always come out my mouth, but at least in my head it's happening. But above all, I use the elements. And, if I do a draw in the morning and I see, today I got the Two of Wands and the King of Swords, I can feel the fire in the air in
Yeah.
those cards. So I wanted to see if we can use our understanding of um, of the of the way the elements show up in tarot to weave together stories. And our fiery stories, what are they like? What are watery stories like, and so forth. So I actually had years ago done this as a workshop for newts. And this was actually right before the pandemic. So probably around the time we last spoke, actually, come to think of it. And yeah,
2022?
it was in 2020. Oh, okay.
Oh,
So it wasn't 2022. It was 2020.
2019 then. Oh, or 2021.
2020, it was like March of 2020 when I went to Newts right before everything shut down. It was
Okay.
like the last minute. And people were like elbow bumping because we didn't know what to do. The first masks were coming out. But yeah. And so I gave this I gave this talk, which I called Four Stories, which was about how you connect the elements with the cards in the tarot. And so you can do this with practically every card in
Yeah.
the deck because you've got all wands, all cups, all swords, all pentacles are all related to each of the four elements. And then you can kind of work through the majors as well. You've got your elemental majors, the Fool and the Hanged Man and the Judgment card and the World.
Yeah.
And then you have your zodiacal cards, which are related to the elements that way. And then you have a few planets which are not accounted for, which is like, so there's like, six majors which are not accounted for in this book, but otherwise it's pretty much everything.
Yeah.
So, and I thought, okay, what if the Fool is elemental air, what is the story of air? How does the story of air show up in the Fool and all of the swords cards? What does that mean?
Yeah.
And to me, that was a fascinating question to ask. And it was actually, I forgot to mention that this all sort of has its roots in Fortune's wheelhouse because I remember that Mel, let's see, I mentioned it in the introduction. This was in May of 2018. We were recording the Two of Cups episode. And she said, one thing that occurred to me is the concept of whether the whole entire suit of each element is associated with the major of that element. So, in other words, does the entire suit of cups have something to do with the hanged man and the idea of longing and sacrifice? And, we just went on talking about the Two of Cups, but my mind was like, right? And so all through the end of Fortune's Wheelhouse, and for years later, I just kept thinking about it and wanting to get back to it and wanting to figure out whether that was true.
Mm,
So this four stories workshop, which I did, was part of that. And then the book, which I returned to 4 years after doing the workshop,
yeah.
was kind of the completion of that very long thought.
Wow. So it started with that conversation about the fool and the air.
Yes, yes, it did. It was
Well, what
it
better
was
place, right?
exactly, exactly. In fact, I want to show you. Can you give me the screen sharing for a minute? Yes.
Oh my
So,
God.
yes.
Oh Lord.
So you can really see how how everything kind of connects to everything else in here. There's a connection between the court cards and the minors. There's a connection between the aces and the zodiacal majors. Each corner of this sort of represents a different element, which is fun to think about and a little bit mind bending.
Just a little bit, Susie.
It's
Wow.
I think I kind of did this graphic as a joke because this is kind of what the inside of my head looks like. But but here's one more which is even more insane. Let me see if I can get it to come up, because there we go. So this is every card in the deck, with the including the planetary majors.
Where are they?
So if you
I see
look
on the
at the
bottom.
top, you can see like the
Yes,
sun's in the middle,
I see the
and
sun.
then the tower, which is Mars. And you can see, for example, the Mars, one of the strings going to the Seven of Wands, which is Mars in Leo, in the third decan of Leo. And, there should be six different strings going to different minors.
Wow. It's like a side view of the tree of life, but with multiple paths.
That's fascinating. Yes, yes. So anyway, to me, I wanted to sort of like take that web of connections and tell stories with it. So for example, for the story of Earth, the story of the world, if you're familiar with the Kabbalah, so you know that this sort of whole story of Malkut and that sort of formation of the tree has to do with the return of the daughter. And
Okay.
so what I wanted to do was tell the story of Earth as the story of the return of the daughter. And I told it as the myth of Demeter and Persephone.
Okay.
Right. So if you think about it, you've got your three zodiacal majors: Capricorn, the devil; Taurus, the Hierophant; and then finally you've got Virgo, the hermit. And I sort of thought about that as like, the Capricorn, literally this underworld force drawing her down into hell,
Yeah.
basically, right? And then the hermit as sorry, then the Hierophant as the marriage of Persephone and Hades in hell, or in the underworld. And then the hermit as like the search of Demeter for Persephone. She searches all over the world. And then also there's, the hermit is Virgo, so it's a mercurial card. It is said that the sign of Virgo is a depiction of Demeter in some traditions.
Mhm.
And it's a mercurial sign, and Mercury was the one who helped Demeter find Persephone and bring her back to the light. So anyway, so all of that seemed really fun to tell as a story. This is what Earth is trying to do. It is trying to bring back the daughter so it can reproduce and make more of us.
And it keeps going and going and
And
going.
it keeps going and going, and then each sort of section of that mythos has its own story. So, like the story of the devil, the 2, 3, and 4 of Pentacles, I tell as a story of Perseus and the Gorgon. It's a very technical story in a way because he gets help. 3 of Pentacles from these gods, and he's given gear to and shields. It's very 4 of Pentacles, and then the 5, 6, and 7 I tell as the Lakota Sioux story of White Buffalo Calf Woman, partly because it's stories of Taurus the bull.
Yeah.
And then the last one is the hermit story. So I tell the story of the 8, 9, and 10 of 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 Pentacles as the story of Cinderella. So,
Oh, wow.
8 of Pentacles working very hard every day with no appreciation. 9 of Pentacles getting all glowed up and glamorous, and then
Yeah.
10 of Pentacles going to the castle and having lots of babies. So and each of these I think has its own kind of uh instruction manual, I guess, for living. I mean, I guess I call the story of Perseus and the Gorgon the story of the devil, how to make a claim, and then the story of the Hierophant or the Hierophant and the 5, 6, and 7 of Pentacles. I call that um, how to build bridges. Right, because the Hierophant is the bridge builder. And
Yes.
then the tale of Cinderella is what to leave behind, meaning lots and lots of babies.
Generation, maybe.
Generation, exactly. Because in the sort of original French version of the tale, what happens in Cinderella is that it's all set in motion because the king and queen want babies. They want their son to marry and have children. And in fact, the ending of a French fairy tale doesn't end happily ever after. It ends, they married and had lots of babies.
And that's it.
Because that's the French Catholic view of how a happy ending works.
Oh, goodness. When with the four stories, do you provide exercises, things that you can work with these elements to
Yes.
apply? Like they don't have
Yes.
to necessarily be layouts, but almost like affirmations. Like if you pull this card, this
Mm-hmm.
is where this card can pull you with its meaning, its element, how you can apply this to your day or
Yes,
your week.
yes, exactly. So, this is the first book I've done besides the Living Tarot, which is all workbook. This is the first one that actually has spreads in it, and the sort of main spread that I do at the end is called the Elemental Story Locator Spread.
Oh
So
my
it's like,
goodness.
so the idea is that what story am I in? And so you draw a card to see what element you're in, and what story, and then you draw a card to see what story would I rather be in. You can either draw it on purpose, choose one specifically to represent your story. Say I want to be in the 10 of Pentacles, I might pull that out, or you can draw it randomly. And then card number 3, how do I get there?
So different way of past, present, future. Just
It's
but
a different way of doing it, but making sure the emphasis is on the elements, because it's like if you, for example, say you drew the 2 of Wands like I did today, you would look at the chart next to it and see that the 2 of Wands falls in the Emperor 2, 3, or 4 of Wands fire category. So you're in the how to aim high story.
yeah, sounds-
And then you would choose another to see if there's another story you would prefer to be in. Yeah.
okay. How
Yeah.
many cards in this particular layout?
That one's only 3, but
It's
then I have a whole bunch of other spreads in there that are like in different ways related to the 4 elements, like um, for the cups for water. I have 3 different spreads. One is the based on the 2 of Cups, the self and other spread.
yeah.
And then there's one on the 7 of Cups that is called the 7 Treasures spread. And then there's one based on the 9 of Cups that is the wishing makes it so spread.
Wow. So you pull a
Yeah.
card from that suit,
Hmm.
one card, and then you read around it.
Kind of. Sometimes I will, these are all spreads I developed for my class, the Living Tarot. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll take out like different elements of the suit, like for the Nine of Swords one of the things I did was like, okay, what's the security blanket in this spread, right? Or I'll pull out different elements like that. Sometimes I will um, do things like ask people to draw the cards in a special way, like so in the wishing makes it so spread, I have an incantation that I ask people to do. I have them, okay, so you know how in the Nine of Cups the two majors associated with it are the Wheel of Fortune for Jupiter and the Moon for Pisces, right? So for the sake of the wheel you shuffle 10 times, right? And then for the sake of the moon you cut the deck 3 times, and then you make 9 piles for the 9 cups, and then you say this incantation, which is 3 for the shadow, 3 for the light, 3 for the mistress of fate and the night. And then you go on with the spread. So yeah, and it's sort of a just playing with the ideas around the card. Yeah.
Do you feel that with this book, and what you've provided in this book, that this is opening up another story for you, another direction?
Yes. I mean, I think this, to me, this is like, hmm, this, every book that I write is sort of what is preoccupying me at the moment. And with this one, this is sort of my foray into alchemical territory.
Mhm.
Because what I did to prepare for this book was I was reading a lot of Jung, Mysterium Conjunctionis, and then his works on alchemy, and then also reading a lot of alchemy. So what I wanted to kind of understand, which is not easy for me, and I think perhaps for many people, was what the alchemists were getting at, right? And um, what I believe is that every story of every element, takes you towards a place of integration, takes you towards a place of wholeness, but it's a little bit different in each element, and it feels a little bit different. And I wanted to kind of get the taste of that. Why is it that fire has this scent of adventure and action about it? Why is it that water is full of magic and mystery? Why? Why? So
Do you feel the book has opened up some answers for you, or do you?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, and also answers to a lot of those questions like, why is Cancer associated with the chariot?
Yeah.
And I try to figure that out in 36 Secrets as well, but this is kind of the grand unified theory that pulls it all together, that looks at, cards like Cancer and and sorry, like the chariot and the death card and the moon, and says this is why they all belong together.
Yeah.
This is how they fit together in a narrative, which I kind of explain as let me see, how do I uh yes, right, so
I
there's
think I
kind of this
follow what you're
arc.
saying. There's like a
What?
story. I follow what you're saying. There's like, it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean that it's this card. There's other energies, there's other influence
Exactly. And
that
so if you
shape.
you can look at chariot death to the moon and say this is how to meet desire, how to surrender, how to rise transformed.
Yeah.
Right? So if every card is at the center, or if every card is a constellation of meanings, how do they relate to one another? How
Yeah.
can you pull them into one big storyline?
Yeah.
And to me, this is sort of like helped me understand um, some of the mysteries around the cards. Why is one of the things that happened in Fortune's Wheelhouse, for example, is like we talked about the Prince of Cups or the Knight of Cups and his connection with the sorcerer Nectanebo. Um, And it's like, Fortune's Wheelhouse, we were just like finding information from everywhere and stacking it up and stacking it up and stacking it up. And now, sort of what I've tried to do in this book is synthesize everything into something that says, this is why cups are sorcerous. This is why there's magic in water,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's it's interesting because in doing the study group,
Hmm.
some of us are seeing that there is the correlation, and that's always between the major arcanas and the minor arcanas, but why they are what they are. And so
Why? Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
we're asking questions like, so why? And the chariot is one of them. I think that's one of
Yeah.
those parts. It's like, why
Yeah.
is Cancer the chariot? We could see maybe the protectiveness, and also
Hmm.
depends if the charioteer is even in it. Sometimes the
Mm.
charioteer is
Yeah.
not even in the scene, it's just the chariot. There are all
Yeah.
these different things, and it just adds more into the mix
Yes.
of understanding these archetypes because of the way deck creators interpret these
Yes.
the minor card, the majors, and it's just like, wow, it's
Yeah. And I think that even though each deck creator kind of shines a spotlight in a different part of the constellation, it doesn't mean it's not all still there and available to you, right? Even if, someone does an image of the chariot and all you see is a motorcycle,
yeah,
it doesn't mean that you can't bring everything else you know about the chariot to that card.
correct, correct.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important when you study the tarot and you're going through different decks. And I like non-system decks just because of that, because then I can
Yeah.
deviate from looking at the RWS and the Doth. This is
Hmm.
this person's vision. This is what they
Yes.
see with this card. And
Yes.
helps you break the habit of going back to those traditions. Not that they're bad, but I think at some point when you do the tarot, it's so important to explore and expand. And that's why I'm
Mm,
into the esoteric, because I want to know
right.
more. I want to see the other side of these decks and the meaning.
Yes, yes. I think it's really important because I think every tarot deck is a microcosm of the entire world. And it is not so easy to find everything in the world in a tarot deck. It's not so like falling in love easy, like Two of Cups, right? Or something like that, or the Lovers, or whatever it is, Four of Wands. But, what is it when you are late to meet your daughter for coffee and in the next county, like that? What's that? Or what is it when you are, having writer's block, like all the little things that happen to us all the time, they have to be in there too. And the only way we can come up with a language for that in tarot is by expanding each card and like an envelope or a balloon, just filling it up with everything that the world.
Possibilities.
Exactly. Every possibility the world contains. And to even begin to do that, esoteric structures help because they extend your range. Like all metaphors, they extend your range.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm writing a note here. And that's important, and
Yeah.
when I started this group, I had a whole bunch of people, and then it started to shrink down,
Yeah.
realizing that this is going to be time consuming. I want
Yeah.
people who
Yeah.
are going to take part, like in a course or whatnot, make the dedication,
Yeah.
make the effort to really understand. And I get it. Time is of the essence for a lot of people, and this time of the year, a lot of people are out doing things. Um, but
Yeah.
it's so, so important to understand the underlying issues.
It is. I mean, well, I always like to tell people that the esoterics are optional, but they're there and they're available and they help. So like, suppose I am on my computer and I suddenly go down a wormhole because I see some jewelry I like online and I'm like, staring at it and trying to decide if I can afford it and just doing what we do or on Instagram or whatever. Now, in my mind, I can ask myself, what does that look like in tarot? And, yes, it might be the Seven of Cups, or it might be, the Nine cups or whatever. But, one of the things that comes to my mind is the Four of Cups, because there's a deep history of Deccan commentaries in which there is a man who is seeking jewelry,
Mm,
and it's associated with the moon, and the moon is full of glamour, So for me, that becomes part of that. And there's no if you fill yourself with enough esoterics or anything, enough webs of association, there is nothing in life that you can't describe in tarot, and vice versa. Also, when you're doing readings for people, then, and they ask, what does this card mean? Then you have a dozen examples of what it might look like to help them recognize it.
yeah. I don't want to overwhelm it too much. I just want to stay like pinpointed to like, so what does this card mean? Like with the Tula Mundi a
Hmm.
reading I did with a gentleman yesterday. And he was
Yeah.
pulling out mythology images. He goes, I
Hmm.
don't know this deck, but I see Hydra. I got the Seven of
Mm.
Pentacles for him
Mm. Mm.
for that
Yes.
deck. And
Yes.
he's
Yes.
like, I
Yes.
see
With the
Hydra.
snakes. Yeah. Hmm.
And he's like, when I see this card, I want to cut the heads off of Hydra
Which is
because of that challenge.
interesting and
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense because, in the seven of discs, it's almost like you will never be done. The heads of the Hydra will always be coming back.
yeah.
That's the
But
feeling of that card. Yeah.
yeah, and I was saying to him, but you have the power, you have the control to, change this. You can know, I feel in relation
Yeah.
to what we were
Yeah.
talking about,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
either work with this challenge and make it so that you can overcome, also learn the lessons from it, or you could just let it consume you, because
Mm.
it swallowing the discs. And
Mm.
it's
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what are you going to do to hold on to that?
Yeah.
Going to
Yeah.
fight through it, so on and so forth. So it's funny, he was bringing up mythological references with some of the cards I got. It's like, this guy knows his stuff. This person
Yes.
knows.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so a little bit about astrology. I know we have a little bit of time left.
Hmm.
Do you touch upon the astrology with
Oh, yeah.
your stories?
Well, in the sense that it's based on astrological structure,
Okay.
it's like it's totally based on the precession of the zodiacs and it goes, in elemental order, but, we're basically dealing with Aries and then Leo and then Sagittarius. And then in water, we're dealing with Cancer and then Scorpio and Pisces and so on and so forth. So, yeah.
Okay, but it's not heavily emphasized. We're still working on the powers of those elements.
How
And
they
then,
show up in each
okay,
of those. And I think that, like, for someone who's familiar with astrology, there should be bells going off as you read, the story of Pisces as the story of Noah's Ark. It should be like, oh, yes, I know how that relates to Pisces because I recognize this story from my understanding of that sign.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know astrology is very important with your work,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
especially with a book focusing on the elements. I just wanted to ask and see if
Absolutely.
astrology is still
Absolutely.
part of it.
Yeah.
Um, your podcast, your podcast. Um, I know we talked offline, but one of the questions I asked Susan was, how did she struck gold with that name, the Tarot Podcast? And she just happens to like get it and put it online. Just briefly share with us just how it
So, yes,
got
what
it.
happened was that towards the end of Fortune's Wheelhouse's run, I felt like I would maybe someday have another podcast in me. So 7 years ago, I chose and reserved the domain, thetarotpodcast.com. And I really just sat on it for years. It would come up for renewal every 2 years, and I'd be like, do I still really want this? I don't know. Just throw some money at it and not think about it for 2 more years, right? But I thought, well, somebody should do it. And should it be me? I don't know. Somebody should do it. But what happened was that, 7 years later, my husband had retired, and I kind of felt that at this point, I've been trying more and more over the years to bring tarot to the mainstream. That was the reason for both teaching the Living Tarot course and writing the Living Tarot textbook. I really feel that more and more people could use tarot. It is one of the most powerful tools we have to navigate uncertain times. And there have never surely been more uncertain times than these. So at least that's what it feels like. So I thought, okay, look, I know how I could do this. I know who I would want to talk to. I know what I would want to say. What is stopping me? And, I talked to my husband about it, and he basically, told me that what was stopping me was fear. so so we decided that he was going to help me. He does the video production and the lighting, and he helps me with a lot of different things, and we decided we were going to give it a go, and it's been great. I mean, it's basically half solo shows and half shows with guests, interviews, because I kind of want the solo shows are a teaching opportunity for me. And also an opportunity to talk about like how cards actually show up, because we do this whole series called Tarot in Real Life. And, a lot of people will get the tarot card in the morning if they're doing a daily draw, and then they have no idea how it's coming up. It's like they'll say, I went through my whole day and I never saw the Eight of, Swords. And so one of the things that I do is I kind of draw upon the many wonderful students and colleagues I have to share anecdotes so that people can see what they actually look like, what these cards actually look like in mundane life. So there's that, and then I try to come up with the big questions and match them to someone who would be good to give the answer. Like, I mean, I think there is no one in the world I would want to ask the question, why read tarot to, more than Mary Greer.
Yeah.
So that was my first episode for
Yeah.
that reason. Yeah.
That was wonderful. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
great inaugural episode to do your thing. It's like, yes. Rachel Pollack,
Yeah.
God rest her soul.
Yeah.
That would
Yeah.
have been a
That
wonderful
would have, she
addition.
would have been wonderful to have on. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and you've had
I've
Mary.
had Mary and I've had Lon Milo Duquette. I just interviewed Walden Ruth Ann Amberstone last night, so they'll be coming up soon. And we'll see. I have a lot of people in the works. The hardest part is not getting the people to come. The hardest part is thinking of the right question to ask. That's
So,
for the right person.
okay. So the
Yeah,
questions are already premeditated. It's
they
like,
are tailored to the person. Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
only imagine. Um,
Yeah.
the format of the Tarot podcast,
Hmm.
um, in relation to the Fortune's Wheelhouse. Obviously, the Fortune's Wheelhouse was more esoteric based and
Yeah.
specific. Here with the Tarot podcast, we had spoke briefly. It's not really simplistic, but it sounds like you
Mhm.
really want to get deep into the people's minds that you will be interviewing. A certain question and just kind of run with it.
Exactly. I want to ask people, we all have questions about tarot, whether we started today or 20 years ago or 50 years ago, we all have questions. And I thought it would be good to talk to people who have thought about those questions for a really long time and hear what they have to say. Doesn't necessarily mean you'll always get the answer that works for you,
Yeah.
but you will get an answer.
Yeah.
And also, so what I'm doing is it's Patreon funded. So I'm starting a Discord where my patrons come and we can hash over these things and discuss the episodes and scratch our heads and I can't wait to start conversations about whenever I ask, whenever I get to the episodes on fate and free will, because that's my favorite topic ever.
I think that's the question as you were talking. I was like, what's the one question
Yeah.
you can ask Susie Chang? Because you're still, I feel, Susie, that you're still on this journey. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why
That's
we
very
have
true.
That's why
Yeah.
you have the books that you have to
Yeah.
share information.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
with the podcast, where do you see it going?
I don't know. I think, I want to, I mean, I can't imagine I'm going to run out of questions anytime soon. Let's put it that way. And, the hope is that it will be sustainable. In order for me to keep doing this for years on end, I will have to have adequate patronage, but we'll see how it goes. I've committed in my mind to doing it at least for a year to
O-
see how things go, and hopefully for much, much longer than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why not a deck? Why not
Mm.
why not a deck?
Well, so there are many ways for people to make a deck. Those who are not artists often will contribute to writing a book and working with an artist.
Mhm.
And for me, I have always felt that because I come from an art family, my parents were artists, my like all my ancestors were artists in one way or another, and I felt like I can't ask someone else to, draw a deck for me. It has to be me. So I have to learn to draw. And I've been working on it.
Okay.
I've been working on it as my deck and walk for like the last few years. I'm
Excellent.
working on drawing. So I do think that, who knows, 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, who knows? There will be a deck someday. It may be like a deck that's just my personal, talismanic deck for a while. Or it may be that someday my skills will get to the point where I feel good enough about putting something out there in the public. It won't be soon, but I'm working on it. It's sort of like, as they say, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is now.
Now. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just I'm just like thinking about all this knowledge and information and the
Yeah,
metaphorical aspect. I could just imagine the
exactly. Yeah.
deck that
Yeah.
you would create
Yeah.
with your
Yeah.
experience of the Kabbalah, magic, astrology, esoteric, hermeticism, all of this, alchemy,
Yeah.
best suited so when someone reads the book, they understand it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a part of me that wants to just, you know, uh, I feel like I have to just keep forcing myself to learn and to draw and to become more comfortable with art so that I can find the way that I can bring it into the world. Because, I realize I don't have to be an artist the way Mel is an artist or the way the many people I admire whose decks, fill my collections. It doesn't have to be that kind of art,
Yeah.
but I need to find a way that works for me. The way Rachel Pollack found a way in the Shining Tribe Tarot. She would never describe herself as an artist, but she found a way.
Coming up with you.
Um, no, not really, other than just podcasting, podcasting,
Okay.
podcasting.
So
That's
look,
what's up.
yeah, that's look
No book
for
this fall. I'm
what's
taking a
that?
break. No book this fall. I'm
Okay.
taking a break. Yeah, I'm just gonna be on the air, is what I'm
Okay.
gonna do.
Alrighty.
Yep. Yep.
Alrighty. So podcasts every twice a month, is it? Every two
Now it's weekly. That's
weekly.
why. Now it's
Okay.
weekly. So I'm trying to keep it up and make it more sustainable. But yep, every Wednesday it comes out
Okay.
for
Um,
Mercury.
is there a certain time or just any time on Wednesday?
It's released at 6 a.m. Wednesday East Coast time. But if you're a patron, you get it 24 hours earlier.
Okay. All
And
right.
it's both on YouTube and everywhere there are podcasts.
Alrighty. I'm going to put links
Wonderful.
for everyone to go to the channel, and also it's on Spotify, it's on iTunes,
It's
it's on
everywhere.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And please show support the best way that you can. Susie, we want to keep this information going. There are tons of podcasts, there are tons of channels,
Mhm.
and they're catered to, different mindsets and whatnot. But me personally, me having Susan on my channel, she's very special to me because she does play a role in me understanding the Decan, and she has important information. And she's still working, she's still doing things. So we want to keep and we want to show the support of artists that are working. This is part of the livelihood, part of hats that Susan has, many different hats
Yes.
they have.
Yes,
Um, and
exactly.
that's something that we need to show and give back to the creators and artists. So Susan, thank you so much. I know this was a little bit short. We could talk on a little bit more,
We
but
could.
I want to be respectful of the time. Um,
Yes, thanks so much, Amy. It's always so good to talk to you, and I'm
Likewise, it's been a
really
while, so
gratified that you invited me on.
yeah, it's been such a long time, and I wanted to have you back and just touch
Yeah,
base.
yeah.
So stand by. Everyone, alrighty, I will see everyone soon. Susan, stand by again, and thank you for your support for those of you watching, and I will see you again. Thank you. Bye.